Hi everybody, welcome to Goshen Prepping. Thanks for joining us. When it comes to prepping, of course, we all make mistakes, and of course those mistakes can be costly. But I find that mistakes are often made by new people. But even if you're new or advanced, there are certain things we can learn, and I came across a great article to look at. We can all glean from and learn and see the best way to prep without making these costly mistakes. So here it is, 24 worst mistakes made by rookie preppers. Number 1, ignoring the source. Before jumping into an action, make sure it's reliable. Absolutely. You want to be able to take information from people who, practically speaking, are experts and know what they're talking about. There are all kinds of prepper community experts out there. Make sure you find the right ones to be able to give you the correct answers for your questions. Number 2, not considering your location. And notice he has a phone out with a map trying to, we'll probably figure out where to bug out to or where to go. But the article specifically notes that, you know what, don't think there's only one way to get places. You always have to be adaptable and have backup plans. Number 3, procrastination. And there are some people who love to make sure their plan is completely mapped out. Don't go with that. Sometimes you need to take a first step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Just start getting going and start prepping, do what you need to, and kind of learn along the way. Number 4, so important, here we go, not taking care of your health. According to Forbes, almost 42% of adults in the US are obese. And let me tell you, living on a homestead is so exhausting, constantly things to do. What's it going to be like if crap hits the fan? You're going to be exhausted. You need to get in shape now to be ready for that. Number 5, hoarding. Oh, here we go. Just because you're stockpiling everything doesn't mean you're prepping for the worst. It just means you're hoarding unnecessarily. Storing items in your house because you might need them one day is a trap newer people often succumb to. Oh boy, and this is so not true. This is ridiculous. The person who wrote this needs to research and see what hoarding really is. It's a pathological condition in which people save every scrap, every piece of plastic, any leftover straw. That's hoarding. When we stockpile food, look, World War II lasted 7 to 10 years. You could easily stockpile 7 to 10 years worth of food, but I think the guy from this article will consider you to be a hoarder. That's a totally different situation. Not considering shelf life. Heat can break down the chemical bonds in plastics, leading to degradation and plastination. Duct tape gets slimy, that's true. Proper storage conditions are essential to prevent things from going to waste, for sure. But it's interesting, right here it says best before. There's a big difference between best before or best buy dates and expiration dates. Like canned food, for example, we talked about this so many times, canned food doesn't expire. The best buy date on there is, you know what? It will get a little like liquidy over time. The nutritional level does go down a little bit. As long as the can's intact, however, it'll last practically forever. So yeah, there are some things that expire. You need to take into account for that. But if you have your food packaged correctly, or if you buy canned food or freeze-dried food, etc., you're looking at lasting indefinitely. Not practicing. Yes, that's what we're talking about here. Run drills and practice using all your supplies so you know what to do in a real world scenario. Right on. Stockpiling food is only one part of prepping. In some ways, even a small part. You need to practice, and drill and train to be ready. Because if you're caught without doing that stuff ahead of time, when it does happen, you will really be lost as far as what's happening. So make sure you practice. Using chlorine bleach. Interesting. It says chlorine is inadequate for disinfecting water and adds chemicals. True and not true. Yeah, too much bleach will add chemicals. You don't want that. But if you're using the actual concentrated bleach, not like gel bleach or scented bleach, etc., it can successfully disinfect water. That's the whole point of having chlorine bleach in your pool, so critters and everything don't grow in there. It will sterilize the water, so to speak, making the bacteria and everything die. So yeah, you got to use the right kind of bleach, I guess, is what it comes down to. Focusing on the negative. This is what I stress all the time. You have to have a positive attitude in everything. Literally, just having the mindset of being a survivor is all about saying, you know what, I am going to survive this. Always be positive. Failing to plan, having a game plan, which is essential idea, having clear timelines and goals. I get comments often from people saying, I don't have the money to prep. Of course you do. You may not have the money to stockpile food, but having plans, strategic plans, having things set around your house doesn't cost anything. Prepping needs to have that part too, and I find people fall short on that area. Not preparing for when you're outside your home. This is great. And they are talking about like an evacuation plan, which is important, and that's a little bit different than specifically bugging out. And of course, if you have an evacuation order, maybe your house is going to burn down from wildfire, you have to have plans for that. But even beyond that, prepare when you're not at home. Prepare always looking around, make sure you have situational awareness, make sure you're always protecting your family and everything. So prepare for things outside your home. It's not always just what's inside. Underestimating the amount of supplies. Kind of funny, kind of sounds like the opposite of the hoarding, doesn't it? They want you to use online resources for help, but don't single-handedly rely on them because your entire life depends on them. So don't hoard things like food, but make sure you don't underestimate the amount of food you need. Oh, I see. It's the perfect balance is what they're getting at. Number 13, not reading books. And it is true, reading books makes a great source of information and will increase your knowledge. Absolutely. But I'm going to go ahead and say hoard, stockpile books. Have all kinds of reference books because you know what? One of the possibilities is the internet will go down and having those books as a reference is vital. 14, not continuously improving your plan. Always update your goals. Always update your plans. And more importantly, always stay adaptable and be able to stay fluid because you have no idea what's coming. Dismissing organization. Yeah, organizing things. And I always say even actually having checklists, have inventory, know what you have. Again, this doesn't cost anything. So you have no reason to not actually keep things organized in inventory. You want to know where everything's at. And of course, certain emergencies, like if the grid goes down or the power goes out, you want to be able to grab some things quickly, like flashlights, for example. Solely relying on food storage plans. Yeah, that's true. Stockpile food, stockpile food, stockpile food. Of course, you want to have lots and lots of food, but it's not the only thing. Again, I always talk about you need to drill and practice and such too, but there's so many different things also that you may need to buy, like ways to prepare that food. Of course, all the food in the world is not going to do well if you don't have a can opener. See what I mean? Number 17, throwing away canned goods after they expire. And this is great. Of course, we're taught to throw away canned food. Of course, the manufacturers want you to think that. But the experts state that even after the expiration date has passed, consuming canned food has no adverse health impacts because it lasts much longer than what's on the label. Sometimes decades longer. Poor grain packaging. Yeah, that's true too. It talks about packaging them up so like insects don't get in, but just FYI, a lot of the grains and everything, if you don't have like an oxygen absorber in there, will go rancid much faster. And of course, you want to be able to seal them up for insects, critters, and stuff, but also just for expiration purposes too. 19, trying to do it all alone. Yeah, this is definitely speaking some truth here. Surviving is not being a lone wolf and proving you can do it on your own. It is so important to have a community to increase your survival rate. A trusted survival team is the right way to go about it. Absolutely. Good job. Number 20, buying a bug out vehicle. Sorry, this just makes me giggle. Oh, look at this. Before jumping on the bandwagon, I talk about this all the time. Do not jump on bandwagons. You want to make sure if your current ride is good enough. While bug out vehicles can look cool and they are valuable, yeah, that's a lot of cash for a very specific vehicle. Again, it's adaptability. And I'm not saying have some kind of vehicle you can bug out in, but I think even just depending on a vehicle to leave your home, which is probably your best place to be anyway, may not be the smartest move. That cash alone could be used for so many other things. 21, storing food in your garage. Your garage can get super hot. Or maybe you're in Michigan, how about that? And your garage gets way too cold. Either way, preps, even like canned food, has a very specific range. I mean, it's a pretty good range. You don't want to let your canned goods get too hot because it may cause them to rupture. Or if they get too cold, they can freeze, which will cause them to rupture. So you want to make sure, garages are fine as long as you have the temperature regulated in there, but you want to make sure the canned good or other stuff too is temperature regulated. Again, there's a large window, by the way. Don't let it freeze. I always say don't let it go over 100 degrees. Some people say 80, but always have that window and make sure your food stays within that specific range. 22, almost done. Not growing your own food. Growing your own food increases your food security and your self-reliance. And this really is taking prepping to a whole new level because like we have an orchard outside on the very least. I don't have to do anything with that orchard, and every year it brings lots of good food. It's nice because we can go to the grocery store and get stuff, but if grocery stores go down, you're in trouble. My orchard will still keep going. So always try to strive for goals of having a place you can go and having food that you can grow yourself. 23, getting cheap things. I love yard sales. You can get really good stuff. Sometimes people get into prepping, buy these things, and they're like, and they'll sell it for like a fraction of the price. I'll link in a minute a video where we had my friend Phil come over and we talked about getting things cheap to be able to set up your own solar system. Really good stuff. And finally, not planning for sanitation. What are you doing to that toilet, my friend? Every experienced prepper will have an emergency plan if sanitation breaks down. So what will you do? And of course, digging like an outhouse is one possibility. Human compost toilet, which I don't do, but a lot of people do. But think about this. If the power grid goes down, your sanitation's in big trouble because it'll disappear. Not to mention that the treatment plant pumps won't work anymore. And a lot of times in cities, the sewage will back up again. So finding a way to plug up your sewage if it goes out into a city is one possibility too. 24 things. Honestly, I agree with most of these. They're pretty good. You want to make sure, I don't care if you're a rookie or if you're advanced, you want to make sure that you do these things, because there's nothing worse than wasting time, money, and energy on prepping that's not going to work. What would you add to the list, though? What are some things you definitely don't want to do? Put them in the comments below. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.